of the film belong to the horror genre. So the locations we've chosen are an abandoned building and school, typical horror genre locations. We've got examples of non-diegetic and diegetic sounds, so screaming, scary music, blood spilling, and phone calls. Typical horror genre characters are isolated people, so in this case the characters will be Lauryn and Scarlett. The mentally disturbed killer, which is Scarlett in this case. Inquisitive female protagonist, Lauryn, and the mean wealthy girl, which is Brittany. Costumes we've chosen and which relate to horror genre films is a smart casual kind of costume for Lauryn, dark clothing which will resemble the personality Scarlett has, and expensive clothing which Brittany, which again will resemble her. Lighting, so then this will relate to the horror genre, so dark, mysterious, eerie shadows and a typical dusk sort of setting. Different camera angles and shots, so extreme close-ups, long shots, mid shots, eye line, point of views, panning, handheld, slow movement and zoom. Typical horror colours are black, white, red, grey, which is also part of a reduced palette. And editing, so the timing of shots will be the most important aspect within our film. So these shots will create suspense, making the audience want to watch more of the film. The age rating we've chosen for our film is 15, so this target audience will be the most successful, as the majority of teen horror films are aimed at 15 to 18 year olds. Aiming the film at this age group will mean that the film will have an existing fan base who will think that it is similar enough to other successful horrors for them to potentially enjoy it. Not only that, but teenagers can possibly relate to the characters' lives. They can understand what teenage life is about and how social media can play a big part in their life. Also, some teenagers may experience domestic abuse at home, which is one of the things about Lauryn as well. She suffers from domestic abuse from her parents. My group and I believe that the audience will enjoy the film. They'll be intrigued by the narrative, how there are girls or possibly boys who are experiencing some bullying in their school life.
So on to location. The location is where the movie will be set, and it can help the audience to understand who the characters are, and this will be the main location where the most of the narrative will take place. This is the corridor of the school where Lauryn will be walking through, and this is an example of an establishing shot of the high school where Lauryn meets Scarlett, and this is the abandoned building where Lauryn and Scarlett kill each other. The characters. These pictures are what the characters would look like in the film. For example, Lauryn, if she finds it hard to socialise and she tries to hide the truth about her, and that she is a victim to domestic abuse, she first felt that starting a new school would be a scapegoat. However, it only gets worse for her. As you can see, she doesn't have much bright colours. She's not wearing bright colours, so it can result to her wearing dull colours, which can link to her being domestically abused by her parents. This is a quite dark point in her life. Scarlett, as you can see here, like Lauryn, she finds it hard to socialise among other people. She is considered to be with the outcasts throughout the whole school. She gets bullied by the other girls in school. Scarlett starts to become obsessed with the thought that she had one day, and it starts to become out of hand. Brittany, which is down here, she's very stereotypical rich. She's a white woman, and she tends to show off that she is popular among the school, and she has a lot of money. She is one of the girls that pick on Lauryn and Scarlett, and is the first girl to be murdered in the film.
In this movie, we'll be taking sounds very seriously. We believe that this will make the film scarier and build up suspense. It will make the situations engaging for the audience to watch. This is an example of one of the main pieces of non-diegetic sound associated with Scarlett.
if death seem more intimate, like when Scarlett killed Britain. Phones will be an important prop because most teenagers will use their phones for their day-to-day lives, and they are dependent on them for finding out new things using social media. School equipment will allow the audience to know that the characters are still in education. Demographic can relate themselves to the characters. Examples of thriller horror movie budgets. The Wolfman, £105 million. Shutter Island, £56 million. Sleepy Hollow, £49 million. These films are examples of thriller horror movies with their movie budget. A big risk for having an enormous budget is that film production companies would make that money back when the film was released to the public. For our film, we haven't come to an exact conclusion for our budget, but for our film, because we are starting to have auditions for casting, we have a rough idea that the film would be £1 to £5 million.